Hello ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Smith here, Photog J the Great if you'd like to follow me on Twitter. Coming here today to talk to you a little bit about the new Canon 5D Mark III. It seems just like yesterday that the 5D Mark II was introduced. I still remember very well back in 2008 whenever it came out. A lot of people were very excited about it when it came out. 22 megapixel camera, video capabilities, which is something that we hadn't really seen in DSLRs. Having a full frame camera that was capable of video proved to be a very big groundbreaking feature. There's still to this day naysayers that say that, you know, who would use a DSLR for video when you can just use a video camera? Well, the big thing is you've got a sensor that's about 20 times bigger than the average video camera. So having that extra sensor area means that you can get, you know, like a Hollywood movie style in your videos, and you don't have to spend, you know, as much money as a Toyota Camry on a camera, you know. So it gave just the average everyday users the ability to get some really good video. You could change lenses, of course. You can go and get a macro lens and shoot ants crawling on the sidewalk and just stuff that you wouldn't be able to do with a normal camera. So that was something that was very big. 22 megapixels if you're a landscape photographer. Huge deal. You can get fine details in all your photos. So the 5D Mark II, you know, was a really big deal. Didn't quite have the low light performance of cameras like the Nikon D3 and Nikon D700. You know, I'd say there's probably still, you know, half stop to a stop difference between the two. So that's something that you know, that's something that where that was definitely an area where Canon could improve a lot. But on the 5D Mark III, things have now gotten different. Of course, you still have the video capabilities on this. And by the way, this is more of an introduction to things. I'm going to be testing this in a lot more detail soon. So I'm just going to kind of stick to the facts tonight, and then as I progress on and shoot with this more, I'll get into more detail. But on the 5D III, still 22 megapixels, video capability. Even though it's still 22 megapixels, it's not the same 22 megapixel sensor that's in the 5D II. So a lot of people, whenever this came out initially, they thought, man, well, there's not much of a difference. I'll just keep my 5D II. However, I'd say, you know, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. It is 22 megapixels, but this new sensor actually gives you much better high ISO performance. So now, if you're shooting a lot in, you know, low light, you know, if you're doing available light at weddings and things like that, it's going to be a lot easier on this camera. The high ISO performance has improved over the 5D II. The other thing that's improved is the frame rates, which of course is actually related to the sensor. But this sensor is capable of reading out the data faster, which is one of the reasons why this one actually gives you 6 frames a second versus the 4 frames a second on the 5D II. So for all those photographers out there that may shoot some portraits and some sports, you know, in the past you would have had to go for the 5D II and probably, you know, the 7D to go with it, so you could use the 7D for your action. That's not really necessary anymore, because on the 5D III, you know, you can basically kind of have your cake and eat it too. You know, you have the full frame sensor that's better than low light, but at the same time you have something that's also going to give you the speed that you need for sports. Obviously there's going to be better cameras than this at sports, like, you know, say for example the 1DX, but 6 frames a second is certainly still very capable of shooting action. The other thing that's changed on this, of course, is the focus system, and this is probably one of the areas where, well, this is actually the main area that I don't like about the 5D Mark II. It's its autofocus system. I'm always talking about how Canons cannot focus. And like it or not, with the 5D Mark II, that is true. I have spent some time shooting with pretty much every camera there is that I can get my hands on, and that's one of the main areas with the 5D II is the focus system. It's 9 points. Canon, they've improved the amount of cross-type sensors and things like that with their 9-point autofocus system over the years, but I don't care what their press documents say, it's still the same. For the most part, it's the same old crappy 9-point autofocus system. And when you have a full frame and all your points are centered in the middle, I mean, that's terrible. Not so with the 5D III though. You've got the new 61-point autofocus system. I haven't shot as much with this as I'd like to so far, but in using it so far, I would say that it's very, very good. It is very similar to Nikon's 51-point system on their older cameras, like the D3 and D700. But because it has more cross-type sensors, particularly at the edges of the frame, it actually works a lot better in that area. I still think the Nikon may be slightly faster, but that's, I mean, it's just so slight. I think this is a very, very, very good focus system. So I may actually be changing my mind about how Canons can't focus. I may have to come up with another gripe about Canon. No, just kidding. But yeah, this is very, very good on focusing. And of course, me and Ed Rightway Photo are going to be doing a review side by side pretty soon, where we're going to be shooting the Nikon D800 and the Canon 5D Mark III side by side. So definitely be on the lookout for that, and we'll have a lot more information from some real world type testing. I'm definitely not into shooting test charts and pixel peeping on my monitor all day long. I'd rather go out and actually shoot something. So anyways, I'm going to save a lot of my opinions on this camera until I get the opportunity to actually do that. Moving on to the ergonomics of this camera, which I'm going to get ready to show everything up close for you, so don't worry there. I like the way this feels in hand. It's the grip here is a lot deeper, so there's plenty of room to really wrap your fingers around, which is very, very nice. I guess I kind of like my cameras opposite of the way I like women. Anyways, that was kind of a joke, mostly. With the camera, more to hang on to is definitely a good thing. You can really wrap your fingers around there. On my D700, that's probably one of the only complaints about the ergonomics I had on it, is the grip here is a little bit shallow, and so like my middle finger is always banging into the camera body itself. So like one of my fingernails permanently grows down because as I hold on to the camera, my fingers all smushed up against the body. So that's not an issue on the 5D Mark III. So it feels very, very nice in hand. As far as all the layout of all the buttons and everything, of course I'm going to go over all that in a moment here, but a lot of that is still going to be mostly personal preference. I don't really think that this is better or worse than anything in Nikon per se. It's going to be mostly personal preference. So still very good. Large viewfinder as you'd expect on a full frame camera, and it's very, very, very nice in that regard, especially when you wear glasses. The screens, I guess on current DSLRs, I guess we're kind of running out of real estate for larger screens until it's like a holographic display or something weird. I don't know, but it is a 3.3 inch screen on this, so a little bit larger than the one on the 5D II. A little bit higher resolution as well, so that's always a nice thing. But looks very nice so far. Now we're going to take a closer look at all the controls on the body.